Yo, my unstoppable legends, Chronos here, and you already know we're back with another banger. This is What If Deku had Solo Leveling System Part 4, and things are about to get even crazier. If you love insane power-ups, next-level fights, and Deku turning into an absolute monster, then you're in the right place. Before we jump in, smash that like button. We're setting the goal at 100 likes to drop the next part. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the legendary crew. Big shout out to Michael Zilanka, the mastermind behind this concept. Be sure to check them out and show some love. Alright, no more waiting. Let's dive into the action. Waking up, Roomi found herself wrapped around a pair of strong arms. She smiled at that. They didn't do anything even if they could. Her urges were not that high, the estrogen and progesterone hormones are not high, which she was glad about. She looked at the time and this caused her to wake up with a bang. Izuku woke up with the sudden movement. Bun Bun, is everything okay? He even pulled out his dagger. Widening her eyes. We only have 15 minutes to get to the police station. This caused Izuku's eyes to widen. It was 8:45 and Roomi could see a lot of missed calls. I guess sleeping together will make us more lazy, Izuku joked, which then caused the two to laugh. Let's get ready. I will ask for Raphael and Sadkiel to take us there. They got everything done in 5 minutes and told the receptionist that they will be leaving now. After summoning the two shadow angels, they got to the police station in just over a minute. Luckily, no air traffic, but the traffic on the ground was huge. Both jumped from the angels and landed on the ground near Kenji, the dog-head police chief. Where were you? Roomi rubbed the back of her head. Sorry, we overslept. He just shook his head. He then informed the two what will occur, as it was Izuku's first time. I will be doing the speaking, woof, whilst you two will stand behind me with endeavor, woof. When the questions will begin, I want you to answer them. He then looked at Izuku. I know your quirk is hidden nearly all of the people, woof, so be careful as the reporters can be cunning, woof. Hi, Izuku replied. Roomi then looked at her boyfriend. Don't mess up. I know you can be blunt, but this time try to be a little less. He smiled the loving smile she loved. I will try, sensei. He smirked, seeing the twitching eye of his girlfriend. Yeah, girlfriend does sound nice. Conference, the three powerful heroes and a police chief were looking at the crowd of reporters. Good morning, everyone. I am Kenji Tsurigami, the chief of Hosu Police Department. Woof. Yesterday, 6 Nomus have attacked the city whilst the hero killer Stain was there too, trying to continue his work. We have interrogated Stain, and he spoke that he isn't by any form a member of the Luage of Villains. Woof. He was looking around at the crowd, then continued. Endeavor, Maruko and her work-study student by the hero named Monarch was present in Hosu. With the help of his shadow army, the Nomu were dealt with quickly, and the civilians rescued and healed. Woof. Whilst that was happening, Maruko and Monarch found Stain. The hero killer was about to murder of 2 UA students under work studies and a local hero. Stain was quickly apprehended by the two and put in prison. Woof. He then took a deep breath. Any questions? A lot of the reporters started to shout questions and raise their hands up. Kenji rose his hand up, quieting everyone down. You miss with the purple hair. She nodded. The video that was captured by an unidentified person yesterday. Endeavor, why would you try and harm a criminal who was already captured? Endeavor was a little pissed. Izuku and Roomi moved a little further from the heat he was producing. I will not comment next. How could he even say something? Enji knew that his anger can get the better of him, but yesterday was on another level of hatred, especially towards the young man standing near him. And I thought I was blunt. Izuku thought to himself. The chief pointed at a man with some weird eye color. How did Maruko and Monarch capture Stain? Roomi stepped forward. When we saw Stain, myself and Monarch were on the roof where we made a plan of action. Monarch would summon some of his ice bears to get the hero and the 2 UA students out of danger, with one of his angels healing them up. He would be the distraction for that moment, and when the guard of the hero killer was down, I jumped down and knocked him out. Then she stepped backwards. A different reporter shouted out, wouldn't it be dangerous for Monarch, even though he is a first-year UA student? She smirked at them. I am confident of the skill of Monarch. Another reporter now asked a question with the permission of Kenji. Monarch, what exactly is your quirk? You seem to have a lot of minor quirks with a major one. With a straight face, Izuku answered, I only have one quirk. He then remembered the warning of not being blunt. Any more questions will need to be asked Nizu, the principal of UA. But in the inside he smirked. I got you back Nizu after the said cheese-loving mouse took his cheese. With Nizu, it was only cheese. It only happened once. Nizu yelled in pain knowing that there will be a lot of calls. Though he wondered when the HSPC would come, demanding answers. Continuing on, Kenji then spoke up. Any more questions? And so it continued for another 10 minutes, where Izuku wasn't telling anything about his quirk and neither did Roomi. There was a question from one reporter fan, Miruko Monarch. This got their attention. Are you two dating? Izuku nodded, but decided for Roomi to do the talking. We only recently started to date. She had a predatory smirk which indicated that Izuku is out of anyone's luage. In front of 3 TV screens, 3 girls nearly went into tears. They needed to ask Miruko to allow them to join, but one of them had to be restrained by some fibers to not go to the conference and explode the rabbit. The conference finished 5 minutes later where they said goodbye. The duo decided to get some breakfast and then travel to the Dragon Agency. Izuku thought the conference wasn't that bad. Be there and look presentable, answer some questions, easy. Agency of the Dragon. It took around 30 minutes to arrive at the agency. The agency was in the brown color with tinted glass windows. It had a massive poster of the dragoness herself with her own clothing brand Draguar. When they entered, they didn't see any interior walls. The area looked to be more of a Chinese-style building. The duo was allowed entrance to the top floor. When they left the elevator, they met 2 people, Ryukyu and Nijire-chan. It is good to see you, Ryuko. You must be Nijire, she stated whilst hugging her old friend. Though when she was going to look at Nijire, she was in Izuku's face sprouting questions. Ryuko could see Rumi's twitching eyes, so not wanting to deal with a death. She pulled her apprentice back. The dragoness spoke up. It is good to see you too, Roomi. I presume this is Izuku, right? Izuku then bowed in respect. Hi. Roomi told me a lot about you, but he was too thankful as the blueonette was speaking to many questions. Oh my, I hope it was good things only. Roomi could swear she saw a spark of interest going through her friend's eye whilst looking at her boyfriend. What is your quirk? Can I see a shadow? How strong are you? What is with the fireballs? This was what was heard from Nijire as somehow she got out of the grip of the number 9 hero. She was starting to poke him, but he just jumped away. You could see the pleading look on his face as Nijire was following him trying to ask questions. Number 10 before during the new hero ranking. Troublesome woman, Izuku muttered to himself. Fine, I'll answer some. A defeated tone was given, making the 2 older women laugh. But don't poke me. That is what happened in the next 30 minutes. They all introduced each other or more, showing whose apprentice is better. Roomi then asked, so why did you want us both here? Oh, about that. Nijire was curious, and as she doesn't really ask for anything, I accepted this request. She smirked at her friend. Yeah, Roomi had a lot of twitching eyes during this time. How about we go on some patrols or something? Then as fate wanted to fuck her. Izuku muttered, oh shit, not again. Everyone heard this as Roomi had her eyes widened. A blue portal sucked all 4 of them inside, but what they didn't expect was the blue entrance turning red. You have entered a gate. Red? For fuck's sake. Roomi shouted. They all got up from their ass and looked around. The area they got in was some kind of a clearing. All around was a dense forest where you could clearly see glimpses of water. Where the fuck are we? Ryukyu, who usually have an impassive face, asked. Had one that said that she is scared. This is part of my quirk. I usually use keys to open these type of gates, but this time it opened by itself. From the looks of it, it's also a red gate. Izuku answered whilst looking around. Roomi then continued. The supposed key for this gate had some conditions. Zuku, do you think someone is messing with the system? The both had this theory that the system wasn't really a quirk but something given for some reason. System? Nijire asked curiously. You are here already. But please don't talk about my quirk to anyone else. He looked straight into the eyes of both Ryuko and Nijire. When they both nodded, I awakened my quirk a couple of months ago from All Might punching me to near death by accident. This caused the both to gasp. I awoke the quirk that I nowadays call the system, which is nothing near to the original name. The system is like an RPG game where I can level up. After I reached level 40, I got a job change. This is where I met Roomi after she jumped into a portal where I will receive a change of job. The so-called gates are portals opened by keys, but one of my first ones opened like this too, where some people got sucked in too. Roomi nodded. The both looked at the 2 new arrivals in fascination. The gates appear from E to S ranks with a red and a double dungeons too. This original dungeon should be an A rank, but now it is a red gate, low S rank I think. Roomi gulped. but she allowed him to continue. In gates you have monsters which you have to kill. To finish a dungeon you need to kill the dungeon boss. I originally thought I can only make the gates, but apparently South Korea had the same portal spotted for some time where it opened and closed. Ryuko asked in a nervous tone, "We can deal with an S rank, right?" Izuku smirked, "I have my shadows to help. We also have 2 strong S rank heroines with Nijire being a high A rank. If we don't split up we should make it. But if you go to a different S rank gate, you will need as many S ranks as you can for the safety of the group." Roomi then added, "Also 1 day here is 1 hour outside." The newcomers had their eyes widened. Beg or they could mutter a word, they heard some kind of screams. Ryukyu and Nijire then came up to Izuku with Roomi not bane far away. "What is that?" Nijire stuttered. The name of the key was Baba Yaga, so this must be Slavic mythology. Izuku answered, but after a couple of seconds they could see a black bird with a female head fly above them with some screaming coming to her. Izuku had his eyes widened. "That is a higher rank monster, Alkanost." "Alkanost?" Then the 4 heard a roar and some movement in the forest. Not taking any chances, Izuku said 2 words, "Come forth." With that 191 shadows came from Izuku and gone around Izuku in a protective manner. "Deal with them in groups, Raphael and Igris stay." They all bowed and left to engage the enemy whilst the 12-winged shadow and the knight stayed surrounding the 4. "Wow," Nijire spoke. But when a couple of laughs were heard she jumped onto Izuku for some reason. "I am staying, I hate forests." "I don't blame you, if I remember right from Slavic mythology. When the sun sets it will be worse," Izuku stated. "What should we do?" Ryuko asked, not sure what to do. Roomi took command as she saw Izuku concentrate on something. "Let's make camp." But when she looked at Izuku she froze. His eyes were widened and his breaths were uneven. "Leshi, we must run. My shadows that are under night ranked are being defeated with ease. Only Baruka isn't struggling that much. We must get to a safer area." The 3 eyes widened as they saw a large humanoid would figure that would scare anyone. It had antlers made of wood and was taller than Igris by a fair bit. Leshi, it was a light red name. Igris, Raphael protect the 3. With getting Nijire off him, he used the skill Fireball and shot 3 large fireballs that the beast dodged. With the use of skill Sprint and skill Bloodlust, he got behind Leshi and summoned his spear to kill it. Izuku's eyes widened when spear didn't even make a scratch on the neck of Leshi. Muttering shit, he used the skill Stealth, but Leshi was looking straight into his eyes even when he moved. He knew that the skill Bloodlust didn't work, so the skill was useless until he leveled it up once again. But with the quick moment of inattention, Leshi sped up to him and punched the side of his head, smashing his body to a tree. It took a couple of seconds of trying to get up when he did it, and he barely missed the following drop kick done by Leshi. Leshi is using the skill Call of the Wild. All monster-type animals gain a 50% boost in stats when fighting with Leshi. The young man gulped. He could see low-ranked monsters around him like deer that had white names had a dark gray name on it. He wished he had his shadow army with him, Netherless using the skill Dominator's Touch. He pulled some of the minor monsters towards him and cut them down with his spear and dagger. Taking a second to look at the situation around him, Izuku could see that Raphael was dealing with 3 Alkanost. Nijire was shooting her beams towards the women birds with Roomi, trying to kick them down. Ryuko turned into her dragon form and crushed one of them with her mouth. He smiled seeing Igris killing some of the minor monsters that tried getting close to the group. "You have slain Alkanost X7. You have slain Leshi. You leveled up. You leveled up. Thanks guys, but I need to deal with this fucker too," Izuku thought as his stats increased by 1. Using the skill Spear Throw and then once again using skill Sprint, he saw that Leshi moved his head and run with his enhanced speed towards Izuku. The monarch's speed was greater than the monster's, allowing Izuku to get into its guard and punching him away. Igris used this opportunity when Raphael was back with the girls and used his sword and Dominator's Touch to speed up the speed of Leshi and cut his head. Izuku thought it was dead when the twig starts to move back together. He swore that luck was a skill as Baruka came in, and with the finishing blow of ice in between the bodily gaps it ripped out, killing it finally. "You have killed Leshi. You have killed Alkanost X3. You leveled up. Skill Spear Throw leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Wow, that was tiring," Izuku muttered, then looked at the rest of the team, and sweat dropped. Most shadows came back with the heads of all Alkanost and with the Leshi body too. "I can extract 22 shadows but save 10. I will have to level up whilst I can get all of them into my army. He nodded at them and said, Ryukyu, Nijire-chan, this is how I get my shadows arise. Then the two newcomers saw the 12 dead monsters rise up, becoming shadows. I need to level up as I can't store 2 of the shadows, but I can keep them until I level them up. You have upgraded the shadow. Leshy level will be 21, Knight, x2. Alkanos level will be 2, Knight, x10. I will not be naming all of the shadows ranked Knight or higher, only the boss or any significant shadows from now on. Also, if more of the same species like more Alkanos that will be added will be given the same level as the ones who are already in the army. The dragon woman spoke up. Even though it is a little tiring, this will be a good exercise for us as we don't usually have big battles. They are scary though, Nijire replied. Also call me Nijire when we are not doing hero work. Izuku nodded at that. Yeah, let's get further away. I can hear more laughter and singing in the distance. He saw that most of his soldiers are around them. Angels patrol the sky with the new Alkanos. 10 of you stay though. They nodded and spread out with Zakiel and Raphael staying. Can you two patrol but at a closer distance to us? With a bow they flew up. He saw the magicians close and smiled. You are LV-20, well done. I accept your upgrade. The 6 magicians bowed as their LV.20 elite turned to LV.1 Knight. The 6 of them were one of the key members in the army, and they were usually ones getting the most levels. 6 magicians leveled up from LV.20 elite, LV.1 Knight. Knights, elves, and magicians spread out and make a perimeter. Baruka, you are in charge of the expedition group that will include Beast, 1 Leshy, Fluffy, all monster shadows, and the remaining angels. They bowed and they left towards one of the paths. The Nomus also went too. I guess we will need to find a place to camp? Izuku asked in a fake cheerful voice. The other 3 just deadpanned. Roomi spoke then. I agree. One of us needs to be awake whilst the others rest. I presume Igris will stay with us. Yes, the knights and elves will be watching in the trees around us. A shadow lesh will too be near. The others nodded and traveled around 400 meters to find another opening where a water source was near too. The sun was setting and Izuku got camping supplies out. There was one large tent that had 2 rooms. Ryuko and Nijire will share one whilst Izuku and Roomi will share the other. In front of the tent is a fire pit that Nijire made whilst Ryuko and Roomi set the tent up. Izuku meanwhile was walking towards the pond to collect some water. They were located around 100 meters from the water, so it wasn't as bad. What the fuck? The waters, they had monsters that were uglier than Leshy. There were 2 kinds of monsters, red names and a dark orange names. Stay in the camp, girls. The 3 women looked at the monsters and Nijire started to protest as she could help. Nijire, you have the only long-range ability that is the most trained out of the 4 of us. I can sense some monsters being around us, but my shadows are dealing with them. She reluctantly nodded while still looking at Izuku. He knew the 2 heroes also wanted to help, but they couldn't due to them not being able to deal with water, which he understood. No one knew what was deeper. Izuku knew he leveled up for more times thanks to Baruka and his party mainly, but also the patrols dealing with minor monsters which even the bison could occasionally defeat. Behind him, Zadkiel and Raphael appeared. Can you 2 deal with them? I will help long-ranged. They nodded and started to fly above them. Suddenly, the 7 Vadianoi started to collect water around them and shot them to the angels. The Rusalka, which numbered 26, helped with their minor water ability. Luckily, the 2 angels had some spells that could defend them. During this time, Izuku used his skill, Spear Throw, to shoot some of the monsters down. You defeated Rusalka X5. You defeated Vadianoi. You leveled up. I gotta love my spear skill and the S-rank spear. Izuku thought. He used the skill Dominator's Touch to bring another Rusalka towards him. She tried to use a water attack, but it was blocked by Izuku. The 2 angels were in a shooting battle where the duo were winning by a bit. Some more angels joined the fray, which allowed 12 more Rusalka to be killed. You defeated Rusalka X12, using this opportunity to get another more shadows to turn the battle to their side even more. Arise. With that, 1 Vadianoi and 15 Rusalka arose. Alarm! Shadow extraction limit is full. Level up to gain more space. With that being said, the 16 additional shadows did turn the minor war to their favor even more. With the high water manipulation of the frog monsters, they were getting more damage done to the ones in the water. Meanwhile, the main camp was fully set up. Igris and the Leshy were worried about their liege but now had a different monster on their tail. The three women were all up and ready to battle when they saw the shadows around them being destroyed. 20 more Alkenosts arrived with one more Leshy in addition. They all gulped, but the shadow Leshy went up to the natural Leshy whilst Igris went towards the Alkenosts. Some of the surrounding shadows came too, with some angels up above. Roomi and the two companions decided that Nijire and Ryuko will help Igris whilst herself will help the Leshy. The battle in the air was interesting. The Alkenost used mainly voice attacks and their wings to slash and defend, whilst the angels that had 4 and 6 wings used their minor elemental magic but mainly light magic with weapons to cut them down. The Leshy was being overwhelmed, but all was not going well with Roomi. The enhanced strength and speed of the wooden monstrosity could barely be at her speed, but the strength was greater and the punch she received to her forearms nearly cost her her arms. It only was after 2 minutes, when all of the 20 Alkenost were defeated, the attention of Igris changed to the monster. It took another 10 minutes to kill it off. Izuku had to deal with that. Baruka would be useful with his ice, Roomi admitted to herself. Luckily for Izuku, with the defeat of the 21 monsters, his level jumped up twice. For more spaces added up, I need to get my save shadow to 231 for this to properly work. Izuku muttered. He was happy that he is getting aquatic creatures as his soldiers, but he thinks he would need more night level and higher foremost. After the defeat of the other Leshy, more shadows came in and helped eradicate the survivors. It was a miniature massacre, to be truthfully honest. You defeated Rusalka X9. You defeated Vadianoi X6. This furthered his level by 3, giving his level 95. Only 5 more till 100. Then he spoke to his shadows. Put the bodies on one side, I will. He was shut down when Izuku saw the notifications. You defeated Leshy. You defeated Rusalka X6. You defeated Vadianoi X4. You defeated Alkenost X11. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. He knew that his shadows were doing it, but damn, 3 levels more. I swear the system is popping it up in the most convenient time ever. With the addition of the 3 levels, he can have 6 more saved shadows and 29 extraction shadows on standby. He just smirked and walked up to the 15 dead monsters. Arise. Most will be in the extraction realm, but you won't leave me, my friends, as when I will level up I will save you, he said whilst patting one on their shoulders, which later bowed to him. He came later to the girls, and then arose the Leshy and 3 Alkenosts. Alarm. Daily quest. Getting ready to become powerful isn't completed. Incomplete. Push-ups 0 out of 100. Incomplete. Curl-ups 0 out of 100. Incomplete. Sit-ups 0 out of 100. Incomplete. Squats 0 out of 100. Incomplete. Run 0/10 km. Warning. Failing to complete this daily quest will bring a punishment associated with this quest. Time remaining 4 hours 0 minutes and 38 seconds. Roomi, I need to do my daily quest. She just laughed at him whilst the other 2 looked confused. When Izuku started doing it, she explained what it was meant by the quest. It only took surprisingly around 30 minutes. Completed push-ups 100 out of 100. Completed curl-ups 100 out of 100. Completed sit-ups 100 out of 100. Completed squats 100 out of 100. Completed. Run 10/10 kilometer. He just smirked at that and put the 3 additional points into intelligence. During this time, he also leveled up by 1 level. Truly, his shadows were amazing. He didn't add any additions yet to his army. He was hoping that Baruka and his group will get him to level 100. When he came back again to the girls, he produced some food where they ate at the fire and enjoyed each other's company. Roomi was leaning on Izuku's shoulder. She truly was relaxed now, as Izuku said that Baruka and his party will be coming back soon, and all of the shadows will be close. The water monster shadows stayed in the water or near them, as it was their best bet beating any incoming monsters for their new liege. It was an addition that when they had a water source it will be easier to attack than to produce water, which will take a longer period of time. When night fully arrived, they all stared at the stars in amazement. It was a clear night sky with the stars being presented in all of their glory. They were apparently further north in the Earthen Hemisphere than when they were at Tokyo. Roomi promised herself that during summer she will take Izuku to Russia or Canada. There was a rumor that if you beat Vladimir, the #1 hero of Russia, then you get some prizes. You defeated Dark Vampire? You leveled up? Izuku's eyes widened. We may need to deal with vampires. Apparently one of my shadows killed a vampire. Damn, bloodsuckers. Roomi joked. chuckling. Hey, at least I reached level 100 now. This continued to make her laugh. The other two just shook their head. Congratulations! You reached level 100. You are now a highest rank hero by your own skills without your shadow army. Your daily quest has stopped. You can only level your stats by leveling up or via quest-specific rewards. You have received 3 rewards. Reward 1. MP increased by 25. 000 Reward 2. Each int and VIT point value doubled. Reward 3. A gain of 100 more spaces per job-specific skill. Reward 4A. Level a non-job specific skill. Reward 4B. Level a soldier by 10 levels. I bet you got some good stuff. What is it? Roomi asked curiously. Accept. Reward 1 foot then said, it said that I don't need to do the daily quest anymore, which will lower my chances of getting more keys. But all 3 could feel the mana being increased to a substantial level, then it was suppressed. Chuckling sheepishly, my first reward was an extra 25,000 MP. Wow, so you can do more of your fancy skills, right? Nijire asked. Nodding, yeah, also my soldiers can be out for longer, not being worried about their regeneration factor being affected. Though inside he spoke, accept reward 2, then spoke up, my second reward that the individual stat points increase. Meaning if I increase my vitality, it will increase my health by 40 not 20. My intelligence will increase by 10 not 5 per level. The trio nodded. It was understandable. The growth in theory will be exponential, but it will be harder to level up the higher you go. My third reward was an additional 100 spaces for save and extract shadow skills, which will definitely come in useful. They all agreed to that, even Ryuko, a proud S rank. She didn't really think she could defeat even 10 Alkanost at the same time, not even mentioning Aleshi. Lastly, I have an option in increasing a non-job specific skill by 1 or add 10 levels to a shadow. Add it to a shadow, the more powerful a soldier, then all of us will be calmer. Roomi answered, your own skill leveling up would be useful. Not in all situations you can rely on the shadows. Ryuko supplied helpfully. All eyes were on Nijire. She gulped on the invisible pressure of choosing the decision. Shadow. But upgrade Raphael. You will have 3 elite knight class shadows. After a couple of seconds of pondering, he smiled. Accept reward 3B. Raphael, come close. The angel was happy that his master chose him. Coming closer, he bowed and Izuku said, give the 10 levels to Raphael and accept promotion. Raphael has leveled up from LV.24, Knight, LV.4, Elite Knight. The appearance didn't change much for Raphael, but he was taller and had larger black wings on his back. If the Seraphim could, he would cry at the generosity of his master. Izuku whistled. I will quickly get the other monsters under my rank. They all nodded and he left to do that. He walked off to get 17 more Alkanost, a Vadianoi and 2 Rusalka. Arise. He smiled gently at them. Welcome to the family. It was just another hour when something interesting happened. Izuku took the first watch whilst the 3 girls went to sleep. He was sitting in front of the fire with Igris and Raphael sitting near him too. They all heard some noises but calmed down when it was just Baruka and his team. Hey Baruka, how was it? Izuku smiled proudly at his strongest soldier. The Elf King and the rest of the monster shadows with the angels all bowed down. Rise up. He saw the spoils of their battles and just smiled. Thank you guys. He walked up to the dead bodies and inspected the dark vampire. He was impressed. It seemed that the final blow was given by Aleshi. There was a wooden spike coming from the heart part of its body. The vampire had a black cape going to his feet, silk black hair, and really pale skin. Arise. The 2 Leshy, 11 Rusalka, 7 Vadianoi, 16 Alkanost, and the dark vampire all arose and bowed down. Izuku could clearly see the dark vampire had tints of red coming from its eyes. The mouth area had 2 long but apparently retractable teeth. Dark Vampire LV.16, Knight. Job Specific, Shadow Extraction, LV.1, 304/358 Save Shadow, LV.2, 304/343 Izuku looked up to the vampire shadow. Are there any more vampires? The shadow nodded. Are there any stronger ones than you? A nod was an answer. I want 3 Leshy, Igris and Raphael to come with me and the vampire. Everyone else please protect the trio. They all nodded, with Baruka with a little reluctance. Izuku noticed it and with a light smile came to him and patted his shoulder. You have done amazingly, Baruka. Rest up, but you are in command until I come back." He bowed in gratitude towards his liege. Izuku nodded and spoke up. "Let's head of," with the seven now running towards where the vampire was pointing. The Shadow Monarch then whispered, "I am sorry, but we will kill your kin." He saw the Shadow Dark Vampire shake his head, and Izuku kinda got the feeling that the vampire was saying don't worry. Weird. 40 minutes later, it was a shock to discover the vampire had an ability to turn into a bat, but it was fascinating nevertheless. When they stopped, they looked at the building in front of them. It was a medieval European castle all built by stone. It had 4 towers and a large building in the center. However, the difference between the sky above the castle and the camp sky was as clear as day. The castle sky had clouds, dark gray thick clouds that obstructed nearly all the light. Izuku was lucky that being the Shadow Monarch allowed him to see during the night as clearly as in the day. The one thing that was missing in the previous description was when Izuku looked down, the castle was on a separate island with water all around it. Though the building was high up on the island that even walking up the cliff would be near suicidal. Luckily, there was a bridge to cross, but one problem. A couple of vampires were guarding it. Izuku looked in his shop option a dagger for killing vampires. He smirked and bought a vampire killer dagger. It was also time to upgrade from the C-rank dagger as it doesn't do much towards higher ranked monsters. Item: Vampire Killer Item Class. A-type: Dagger Attack. Plus 400 infused with the Wood of Cleansing and the effect of Burn the Dagger perfect to kill vampires and all dark-type monsters. Extra plus 75 attack on vampire opponents. Can be used, stored, or sold. Effect Cauterization. Burns tissue of the opponent, so their wounds won't regenerate. He twirled it in his right hand and spoke up in a whisper. "Raphael, can you summon your fire when you are above them? Igris, the 3 Leshy, the Vamps, and I will enter during the chaos. I can sense a vampire in the Elite Night level, so be careful." They all nodded and started to prepare. When Raphael was in a high enough area, he used his holy flames to shoot at the castle. Izuku could feel the hot temperature from his place around 600 meters away from the angel. Smirking, the 6 then sprinted with their enhanced strength to the castle whilst cutting the survivors to bits. The dagger was really useful. Vampires are only able to be killed when they are burnt, stabbed in the heart with a wooden spike, or had their head chopped off. One vampire that wasn't burnt tried to attack Izuku, but with the use of the skill Dominator's Touch, he used it to manipulate the body to make its head be cut off with his dagger. The 6 then split up, with Izuku finding an area with 3 dark vampires and 8 gothic vampires. The goths had actual weapons and looked similar to the dark variant, but their hair was usually put in some kind of bun. It too had some kind of eyeshadow around its red eyes. Using skill Bloodlust, Izuku could see that the stats was reduced by 50% for a minute. Using this opportunity, he used the skill Sprint to cut the heads of whilst blocking some of the advancements of the gothic vampires. It took an extra 3 minutes when only 4 survived the onslaught from the one-man army. Using the skill Stealth, he went undetected and cut one's head off, but at the same time used the skill Fireball to burn 1 dark vampire to death. The remaining dark vampire turned into a bat and got behind Izuku, where he slashed the back of Izuku with its enlarged claws. Hissing in pain, he turned back and used skill Vital Strike 5 times as he was pissed, not sensing his opponent. The remaining vampire also tried to escape with its enhanced speed, but with the repeated use of the skill Bloodlust, it stopped in its track for a split second, which was its own demise. Smirking at his victory, Izuku drank a healing potion. He didn't want to use the last status recovery potion he had just yet. You defeated Dark Vampire X3. You defeated Gothic Vampire X8. Arise. Izuku smiled. 3 dark vampires and 8 gothic vampires arose. Izuku noted that the gothic vampires had a spookier weapon of choice with a dagger hidden in their cloaks. He also realized that they had spiky ears, which wasn't seen clearly beforehand. Spread out and defeat the rest of the vampires. They all nodded and spread out. Izuku also noticed something shiny. It was an armor that he lacked but was useful anyways. Trousers of Darkness Item Class. A-type. Armor plus 5 strength, plus 5 agility, 10% damage reduction worn by vampires of all kind. It increased your strength and agility by 5 points. It has an additional bonus. It increases your natural stealth by 25% in dark spaces. Can be equipped, stored, or sold. Smiling, he put it on. It wasn't anything spectacular, but all black. He smiled at the increase of his stats and defense. Going further into the castle, the hair at the back of his neck tingled. Izuku then saw why the corridor started to twist in a circular manner. The dark corridor with graying bricks and a carpet underneath was what should be seen. But no. Looking around to see what was happening, he saw a name tag with a light orange color. Castle, Dwelling Vampire. They looked more sickly but had a book of some kind in their left hand whilst their right hand moved in a weird way. Realizing this was probably an illusion, he tried to run up to the monster but hit a wall. Marveling at the powerful illusion, he wondered if pain will get him out of it. Brining his thumb to his teeth, he bit on it. Some blood oozed out, the illusion stopped, but also the vampire stopped. Smirking at that, using skill, Sprint, he went up to the vampire and killed it with the vampire killer. Arise! The lone vampire came out of its shadow. It looked the same as its living counterpart vampire shadows, but its skin shade was lighter. The book still stayed, but Izuku saw it wasn't moving as sickly as he originally predicted. He also noticed it had a dagger too hidden in its cape. Nodding, he continued forward but was stopped by a massive roar and a plummet by 800 MP. A shadow of his was destroyed, but it was an elite knight. For a second he worried it was at the camp, but the mana drop would have been larger then. Using the sensing ability he had from the system, he tracked the source to be near him actually. It took 1 minute to get there but saw Igris battling with a red name large vampire. Grand Elder Dracula. A red name, he must be an elite knight grade at least. Smirking, he summoned his spear and using the skill. Spear throw, however, it was for naught as the cape it had around protected it from his spear. Widening his eyes, Izuku paled. Then he got the fall view of the monster. A pale but kinda old-looking face with a larger than normal nose and sharper teeth. Sprinting towards the monster with Igris next to him, they punched together where it was blocked by the forearm of the vampire. You could hear some snapping noises, but that was it if you ignore that the monster only moved by a couple of centimeters backwards. One of the Leshy came in. Using its speed, it tried to punch through the cape, but was caught and thrown onto a wall by the said monster it wanted to kill. Grand Elder Dracula is using skill. Darkness around 50 meters in radius around the Grand Elder. All vision becomes dark. Only he, Dracula, can see. The duration is 1 minute. Gulping but closing his eyes, he concentrated on his hearing and the vibrations of the earth. The sensing capabilities have decreased by a significant margin. A slash was coming and dodging by the last second with his own slash countering the attack. Izuku was pushed away and landed on his back, hissing once more as the wound wasn't healed properly. He rolled over to miss a punch that caused spider web cracks to form. Aleshi tried to punch it, but to no success and only had some of its body destroyed. Igris had to deal with some other vampires that arrived on the scene. Izuku could sense that the darkness skill is slowly lifting. With that, his senses increases, allowing him to dodge the incoming attacks. He only wondered what the pain would have been if the nullification of pain wasn't at 28%. He loved the effect cauterization. As with one slash some forearm of Dracula, not even blood came out as it was burnt. Using this opportunity, he made 20 fireballs and shot them at Dracula. I think I will get wild Nijire, Izuku thought, as having the extra 25,000 MP was useful as he just used 900 of it. What was impressive about the vampire though was its mastery over the shadows and darkness per se. When the fireballs tried to hit him, a wall of darkness appeared blocking them all. The monarch looked at the transparent visage of Rockgut Gauntlet, his first armor piece. The two effects don't even affect a rank monsters and above. He could probably buy one, but sometimes he gets some armor from the monsters like he did some time ago. Whilst Izuku was looking at his armor, he had to dodge a couple of shadow tendrils that were there to capture him. Using stealth, he tried going behind it and slashing it, but the vampire turned around at the nick of time, blocking it with his own dagger. A large holy flame was produced by the strongest angel in the army. Izuku could hear the scream of Dracula but knew that this attack won't kill him. The Grand Elder came out of the fire with surprisingly a lot of burns, especially on its face and exposed areas that are not covered by the cloak. Igris, not wanting to be left out, came from behind and slashed downwards. Once again, the cloak protected the monster from the slash. It tried to lash out with its shadow manipulation but failed. Using the moment of distraction, Izuku with the help of Aleshi went between two sides of the vampire and one tried to stab with its hand. When Dracula dodged that strike, Izuku used his Lance of Longinus with Vampire Killer on its neck, making it fly off. You defeated Grand Elder Dracula. If they thought that a moment of respite was given, more vampires came. Shorter versions of the Grand Elder, as their names had a normal orange coloring above their head. Elder vampires from the first clash. Izuku realized they were at night grade, which he was thankful for. The 4 elder vampires were dealt with by Izuku, Igris, Raphael, the 3 Leshy, and the newly formed vampire army. He walked up to the Grand Elder and saw a couple of drops. An armor piece, some junk, and a rune stone. Shadow. Manipulation. Item. Rune Stone No Mana required a skill gained from the Grand Elder Dracula. With your own shadow, you can create anything your mind thinks of. The higher the level, the more powerful the shadow becomes. Do you wish to learn this skill? Yes/no. Yes, I guess continuing the theme of the Shadow Monarch is continuing. With that, a new notification came in as he crushed the stone in his own hands. Alarm! New skill had been learnt. Skill. Shadow Manipulation LV.1. Active. No mana required. You can control shadows to capture, kill, or anything the mind want to. He then used the skill. Shadow Manipulation to make a spike appear from Izuku's shadow, then a rope-type object appeared. This is great. He then looked at the armor. Cloak of Protection. Item class. S-type. Cloak. This cloak worn by Dracula. All of the area that it covers gives you complete protection up to S-rank attacks. This includes elemental attacks, sword attacks, and punches. Can be equipped, stored, or sold. Smirking. This will be useful good to be Izuku. Looking around, he saw that all dead bodies of the vampires had been collected. Now he realized that he risen his level by 11 levels within this castle. Firstly, he spoke the word, "Arise." With that, all of the vampire dead bodies have arisen, including Dracula. Walking up to the vampire Grand Elder, "I will keep your name, Dracula." All of the shadows bowed with gratitude of being saved and be able to serve their liege. Izuku was too surprised seeing a new type of vampire. He couldn't help but have a small blush seeing the figure of the seductive, sinning vampire. He could see that they had barely anything on. Some kind of underwear and a taped X on their nipples. If he didn't have the system, he sure would have passed out with blood lost. Their shadow form was the same as the original body, but their skin had a light blue tint to it, but had the original black tint where the nipples and the lower raygon was located. I think I know why they are called seductive sinning vampires. New shadows. 16 Gothic Vampire LV.14. Night. 4 Cattle Dwelling Vampire LV.5. Night. 27 Dark Vampire LV.16. Night. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.20. Night. 4 Elder Vampire LV.23. Night. Dracula LV.3. Elite Night. Smirking, he looked at his skill level as it increased again. Skill. Bloodlust level increased from LV.2 to LV.3. Active. With the use of 35 Mpayu can intimidate an opponent using strong energy for 1 minute, which includes the Stare of Fear, reducing their stats by 50%. Several targets can be selected. Skill. Advanced Dagger Arts level increased from LV.3 to LV.4. Passive. Due to the user preference to use daggers, you can use daggers more proficiently. When a dagger is used, the attacks gain 50% additional damage. Skill. Fireball level increased from LV.4 to LV.5. Active. With the use of 40 Mpayu can use fireballs to attack. It can deal a maximum of 900 HP damage. Skill. Stealth level increased from LV.4 to LV.5. Active. It requires 180 MP to activate and 6 MP per second to use it for a longer period of time. You become invisible to the naked eye with sound, smell, and presence erased. Let's get going back to the camp. Guys all nodded. But one thing Izuku that was different, that the 4 seductive sinning vampires are trying to get him to a separate room. Izuku had his eyes widen at that, and decided to walk faster, ignoring the smirks of the 4 female vampire faces as they wanted their master's young blood. Izuku used the last status recovery he could get and went to the camp to look after the girls. He asked for all of the shadows to return to his shadow until they arrive at the camp so it will be easier to not get spotted. It was nearly midnight when Izuku arrived. He could feel nothing attacked the group and he was glad about it. Not feeling tired anymore, he allowed the girls to sleep until the morning. It was around 7 AM when one of the girls started to wake up. The first person to get up was Ryuko. "Why didn't you wake any of us up?" she asked whilst looking at Izuku playing cards with Baruka, Igris, Raphael, and a new edition Dracula. "Who's he?" "Oh, his name is Dracula, the leader of the vampires." Blinking, she asked in an incredulous tone. "So you..." Yes, Igris, Raphael, a vampire. 3 of the Leshy and myself had finished of all the vampires. "Ah, okay. Sleep well?" "Surprisingly, yeah." Izuku passed her a cup of coffee, which she nodded gratefully. "So, you do those gates with Roomi often?" "We only been in a handful of gates together. This is probably the strongest we have been in." If you ignore not being able to fight Raphael due to his true form, we fought against all of the stronger shadows bar Dracula together. She quirked an eyebrow at that as she sat down near Izuku. He continued, "This gate can be classified as an S-rank red gate, if it wasn't for my multiple shadows, and the four of us being at a high A to S-rank skill level-wise, we would have not survived. Heck, even a rank gates can cause S-rank heroes trouble. I'm guessing you are saying this from experience." Yeah, I was a mid to high A rank where Roomi was around mid to high S rank when we had to fight Igris. He was an A rank opponent, but then we only defeated him mostly with luck. Izuku chuckled at the end of it. He could hear the light but melodic voice of Ryuko but shook his head at that. The media has seen that since the first sighting of you two going out together, she was getting stronger. Now I would say she is a high S rank where she was a mid S rank before you entered UA. Izuku nodded at that. He let her continue. Yesterday, when we had to fight the Leshy, I was useless. Even in my dragon form, I couldn't do anything. I am supposed to be a low to mid S rank top 10 hero, but even a high A rank monster. With a lower tone of voice, even Nijire was more useful than me. After a second of thinking, Izuku replied, "Remember, this was your first time fighting this kind of a monster. Your hero costume isn't really designed for you to kill. Additionally, killing a villain should be a last resort, but killing a monster is your first option." He looked at her with a bright smile. "Rome wasn't built in one day. It will take time, but I know that you can become a high S rank hero that can kick ass like Roomi likes to say." He could hear her chuckling, regaining her happiness. Not seeing her light blush, "Thank you," she whispered, but it was heard netherless. Little did she know that her friend Roomi listened in to the conversation. After everyone woke up, seeing Nijire coming out of the tent was something that made Izuku and Roomi laugh. Her hair was in a frenzy. It was everywhere and anywhere. Her beautiful long blue hair that was usually done up in a spiral in multiple locations was everywhere around her face. If Izuku didn't know well, he thought it might be a blue yeti. But the pout that came out made his heart clench with the power of cuteness. A dangerous weapon, in fact. We have two options: search of the boss or wait until the boss arrives. Izuku stated after everyone ate breakfast. Roomi, Ryuko, and Nijire all thought for some time. "We might as well finish this gate as fast as we can. So far we have been away from the real world for 1 hour. One Roomi suggested. "That is fair, we can also practice some of our more destructive moves. Also, I want to try my new skill, shadow manipulation." As he said that, some of the shadow tendrils came out wrapping around a tree, then snapping ideas. Usually Nijire had stars in her eyes looking at this display. "How did you get it? How do you use it? It fits your theme. Is that why you got it?" It was a boss drop. The monsters can occasionally drop really interesting items like new skills, items, or even armor. Izuku explained. This wasn't big news as they already collected some alkanost feathers and leshy bark. Roomi explained it can sell for a nice penny or even be useful to help with support equipment. "Like those feathers, right?" the bubbly girl asked, ignoring the rabbit hero. "Yeah, let's start heading. If my predictions are right, then a witch will be the final boss of this whole gate." The others nodded and headed in a random direction. Izuku deployed some angels to scout out ahead with them where the alkanost for protection of the angels. Some time later, CROAAK, the four of them heard. Izuku noticed that his mana was depleting at a small rate. He will need to get something to replenish his mana faster than 10 mana per minute, like the B-rank High Magician's Ring. "There," Nijire pointed out in a whisper. What came out was a frogman which was pretty tall. Great water spirit Vadianoi, an orange name appeared above its head. "He must be around my level, meaning elite night grade." Then to the girls. "He is a low S rank monster, otherwise for me known as an elite night grade." He told them. "We practically have 8 S ranks, with Nijire being at the beginner S rank level." Ryuko spoke, getting some confidence back from the dragon part of her quirk. "Still, it is not to be underestimated." Roomi even told her, though she was excited to kick ass. Ryoko wanted to say something but saw the tongue of the water spirit or the big-ass Vadianoi heading towards her. Her reaction speed wasn't as fast as she would love, but the tongue was intercepted by Izuku having his spear and the new dagger out. Izuku was pushed back by an inch or two. Smirking, "Attack!" As if it was some kind of magic, most of the shadows run from Izuku's shadow towards the monster. Great, water spirit Vadianoi is using the skill Acid Release. It can produce acid from a pH from 7 to 2 and shoot it at opponents. TSK. Some of shadows were destroyed from the attack, but he saw at the corner of his eye that Nijire started to fly up and shoot her energy beams at the Vadianoi. Roomi used her dagger and the skill, Dominator's Touch. After Ryuko got out of her shocked state, she transformed into her dragon form. Just after the acid attack, the three attacked in tandem with the help of some of the shadows. The Great Water Spirit Nyx was defeated with ease. Great Water Spirit Vadianoi was defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. Well done, girls, the Vadianoi is dead, he announced with some pride in his voice, whilst walking up to the dead Nyx. But when Roomi looked where the acid attack hit, she gulped. We are lucky the acid didn't hit us? When the other two females looked where she was pointing, their eyes had widened. The area the acid hit had melted at least half a meter of the ground downwards. Shadow extraction can be used on this target. Arise. Izuku spoke to the downed body. You failed to extract the shadow. You still have 2 chances remaining. Spirit of the water, arise and lead the Vadianoi and the Rusalka. Shadow extraction was successful. A dark shadow came out with Izuku's helping hand. A tall figure, a little taller than Igris, came out. It was basically the dark version of the image above. It had light green shadows covering its front part, such as the belly, neck, etc., though its eyes had toxic green showing. Your name is... He was interrupted by guess who. Nijire. Fisher. It was actually a good name. Fisher it will be. Fisher. LV.1 Elite Knight. Great Water Spirit Vadianoi. It later on bowed its head. Izuku then collected all of the shadows bar some angels and continued forward. It was some time later when they heard some kind of laughing noises, with some large walking noises. The angels started to come lower towards the ground. The group realized that someone is in front and formed came in closer. They had to dodge wood attacks. The trees had some of their wood going towards them with a high speed to stab anything. Luckily, the 4 had experience and dodged. The ground started to shake with some boulders flying towards them, with walls being made to block them in. Roomi and Izuku jumped in front of the other 2. They kicked and punched the boulders thrown at them. Ha 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 ha. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. A voice came out of woods. Did you all hear that? Nijire stuttered out. Izuku nodded. It can speak. It means it is a high-level opponent. The 3 nodded. You are all looking so young and tasty, especially the green-haired and blue-haired kids. For some reason this got Ryuko and Roomi to stand in front of the duo. You 2 think you can protect them? Even though the green one cannot defeat ## and $. Let me kill you first. Who? The 4 asked in unison. ## and $. Seeing their confused faces, she just laughed, finally showing herself by trees moving apart. On a hut made out of wood with chicken legs stood a woman with a noise that Pinocchio would be ashamed of. A skinny body with hairy forearms. Black messy hair with yellowing teeth. She wore some kind of dress that had some cuts and scrapes on it. She was holding a broomstick next to her. Her name was dark red, whilst the hut had an orange name. Chicked Cottage, Baba Yaga. Egg Eyes, the cottage is also a monster. Everyone had some type of shock hearing the news. Ha ha ha, you will be tasty indeed. You are hiding your army though. Let us both clash with our armies. She spoke up. Baba Yaga is using skill, reanimation similar to a necromancer. Whenever someone dies and its soul stays, then she can control them to do her bidding. From the ground all around them rose up different beings. From the monsters they fought to people. Children, adults, pets, even horses were there. If one could guess, there would be over 1,000 of reanimated corpses there. Smirking, come forth. He knows that those corpses cannot be arisen, so he can allow all shadows to go all out. Attack. In a place humans can't understand, time is getting closer and closer. The more gates you open, the faster it will arrive. The being said, but you will have less gates for a while, so master yourself and your army. Izuku Midoriya. The man then looked at a different perspective of a different area of space and time. Millions of monsters, all different shapes and sizes. Insects to dragons, all in hibernation but slowly being awoken. He wished he could do something, but he was bound by his creator to watch. He did collect power at a slow rate, which when he got enough he did help one Izuku Midoriya, knowing Earth needed a strong warrior. Katsumi, damn. Why isn't he answering calls? Don't tell me. Then in her mind, he is in a gate. Oh my, your hair is unruly again. We need to fix it. For fuck's sake. What is wrong with my hair? It seems not only hair is a problem, young lady. He gave a pointed look, as even today when the duo went to patrol she made some kids cry. With the group, it was 20 minutes from the start of the reanimated corpses being arisen. The shadows were the ones dealing with the undead army with the help of Ryukyu. Izuku with Roomi and Nijire were mainly concentrated with the witch. Using the skill Sprint, Izuku went close to her to give her a punch, with Nijire shooting energy beams at 80% and Roomi doing a Luna fall. The witch smiled and raised her hand, causing a light green magical barrier protecting her from the 3 attacks. Getting back, Izuku gave a fatigue potion to Nijire as her attacks consumed stamina. With a grateful nod, she drank it and her fatigue was down by a lot. Ha ha ha, you cannot even touch me. She sent out with spears towards them from nearby trees. With Dominator's touch, Izuku caught all of them and shot them back towards the granny. He also realized that the shadows were at a standstill, with only some of them actually being able to defeat the corpses. It seemed that the Throne Angel with Zadkiel and Raphael were the only ones that could get them down. It also seems that 3 of your soldiers are able to successfully defeat my army. We cannot have that, can we? With that, the rush towards Zadkiel, Izuku intercepted her movement and took the broomstick away from her. He could see the anger in her eyes. Baba Yaga is using the skill Earthshaker. Before anyone could move, the earth started to shake violently. The trees started to fall down and cracks appeared on the ground. The cottage that nearly everyone forgot jumped towards Ryuko to kill her off. In a split-second decision, using Sprint, he rushed towards the Dragon Quirk user. Ryuko, move out. Roomi shouted. When she turned to look what was happening, she stopped in fear as the spiky claws of the cottage were close to her. Her eyes were closed, but nothing touched her. Opening her eyes, she saw a figure protecting her. Izuku coughed up some blood, having one of its claws directed in his stomach, as his cape couldn't protect him from the front properly. Glad you are all right, he said with a light smile whilst blood was coming out of the corner of his mouth. She could clearly see the nail in his stomach. He reared his right fist and punched the hut with all his might, breaking the building. Chicken Cottage has been defeated. You leveled up? Coughing up some more, he leaned forward, but Ryuko caught him. Using Healer, a green glow started to come out of his hands as he started to heal himself up. I am sorry, she muttered to him constantly. Don't worry. That is what friends are for, right? He smiled weakly as his healing skill isn't healing him fully. He then bought a healing potion and drunk it. It wasn't the most powerful, but it accelerated natural healing by X 25 times. Skill. Healer has leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. She just hugged him. Whilst that was happening, Baba Yaga was a little angry. She was pissed. Her home was destroyed. You will pay for that. When she started to rush at Izuku, Igris intercepted her with his sword. But she cracked the earth under him to capture him, but didn't expect some force to pull her towards the soldier. Nijire, Flood, with that a maximum output, was shot out, being 100% towards Baba Yaga. She wasn't fast enough to block it, so she was sent backwards, hitting multiple trees, but was kicked from the back by Roomi, who saw Izuku nodding at her and kicked the witch towards Izuku. Getting out of the embrace, he materialized the Spear of Longinus and with spear throw threw it directly through the witched woman's chest and out of her head. Baba Yaga has been defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. Skill. Spear throw has leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5. Oops, but all of them started to laugh how they finished it. The reanimated troops then started to fall down one by one. You okay though? Roomi asked whilst walking up to Izuku. Yeah, I had to buy a potion as my healing skill couldn't properly heal everything yet, though it did upgrade. Izuku finished the sentence with Roomi hugging him. He just hugged back and kissed the top of her head, which caused her to smile. That a portal appeared, allowing the 4 to leave. Izuku quickly went to the hut and it did arise, but when he went to Baba Yaga, even with 3 attempts he could get her to arise. A sour mood came over him, but it was quickly forgotten by Nijire barreling down on his back. He just shook his head as he heard some light snores coming from the girl on his back. He then looked at the shadows with some kneeling before him. I approve of your promotions and well done, everyone. He smiled at them, with some of them glowing and going back to his shadow. With that, Izuku got out of the gate, only being gone for nearly 2 hours, but nearly being killed during this raid was something he still needed to think about. Chicken Cottage LV.1 Night. Moving house. They all had jumped out of the gate into the office of the number 10 hero Ryukyu. Damn. Home sweet home, Ryuko muttered. Roomi put her arm around her, saying, First properest rank gate completed. Proper? Nijire asked. Yeah, me and Zuku had done a tower kind of gate. Roomi spoke nonchalantly. You couldn't get Baba Yaga right? Izuku just nodded. I won't lie, but she gave me the creeps. At least I have a moving house. Chuckling was heard from the end. Are you sure you don't need to be checked up on? Ryuko asked as she was still worried. He pulled up his shirt up and showed the small scar. I will have a scar until I go to sleep, he answered, not seeing 3 blushes even though one was his girlfriend. Let's rest for some time and we can get some food later on. It was still Wednesday and Izuku had his work studies until Sunday. Roomi knew that Izuku could be ready in less than 20 minutes, but she wanted to celebrate the completed gate. Sure, nodded the Midoriya of the group. That would be great. Nijire spoke up. Definitely. With that said, the 4 relaxed for some time joking around what had happened. With Nizu was with Kenji Tsurigami sitting on one couch. In front of them were 4 people. Shoto Todoroki with his father Enji Todoroki, and Tenya Ida with his older brother Tensei Ida. The 2 pro heroes had a little fearful expressions as both of them knew that if you messed with Nizu then you are fucked. Though Enji had to wonder how old Nizu really is as he was the principal before he even began UA. Greeting, thank you for coming. A cheerful Nizu spoke up. Some news came to me about 2 of my students. Then the voice changed into a serious and a no-shits tone. From the reports, you 2 have nearly committed a crime against another one of my students and a subdued villain. Endeavor, you will be dealt with the HSPC, but the 2 of you are lucky? How, sir? Tenya asked, being curious. Whilst you had to listen to Izuku reprimand you. You could see a shiver going down his spine. The 2 of you can be expelled from UA for the acts and young Shoto can even be put in a rehabilitation center. This caused the 4 eyes to widen. Kenji continued. That was my original idea, but Nizu had a different punishment in mind. You would have been on a probation of 3 months, but as the video was produced, different measures had to be done. Nizu then finished. Both of you will have to write an essay about heroes' laws and regulation. The both of you will be helping in a homeless shelter for 200 hours each. Thirdly, you will be visiting Hound Dog weekly. Lastly, for the first week after you come back, you are suspended to go to class, meaning you are only allowed to stay at the dorms. Am I understood? There was an underlying message. If you don't agree, then you both will be kicked out. Tensei and Tenya both bowed their head, with the younger one of the 2 speaking up. I accept this punishment, sir. Enji lowered his head, with Shoto too doing it. I too, sir, though saying it through gritted teeth. With a joyful tone of voice, Nizu continued. That is great. Endeavor. Ingenium. Neither of you are allowed to take them on any patrols, but you can teach them in your agencies. Understood, sir. /hi. The both replied. Now how do I get back Izuku? That cheese was delicaous though. Nizu mused to himself, not noticing his mouth started to water. With the four of them had just arrived at a fine dining restaurant. Ryuko had a Chinese-style dress that showed off her left thigh. Nijire had a blue dress that accented her eyes and hair. Roomi had a black dress that showed off her back. Izuku had a black jeans with a white shirt. Just imagine them all looking smokingly good, winky face. The restaurant serves more traditional food but had more of a posher style. They got a table for 4 with Roomi and Izuku sitting on one side whilst Nijire and Ryuko on the other side. The 4 continued to chat and laugh. Once again, all of them ignored the surrounding where people were looking at them in wonder. 2 top 10 heroes with their students. Most people know that Ryukyu had a sidekick student named Nijire-chan and Maruko had a student/boyfriend/sidekick named Monarch or Izuku Midoriya. When the waitress came to ask what they wanted, the 2 heroines ordered some sake whilst the 2 students got some juice. One of the rules of UA was that they cannot drink any alcohol whilst being a UA student, even though Nijire technically could with her age being of 18. They got a kaiseki, a multi-course dinner which was one of the restaurant's speciality. It was only after 30 minutes when the 2 full licensed heroines started to get a little tipsy, much to the embarrassment of the 2 younger charges. During the time, Izuku and Nijire started to talk whilst the older females drank and ate. How strong is Mirio then? They were on the topic of UA's Big 3. He recently reawoke, a new part of his quirk that allows him to be physically stronger and faster. Ah, that is interesting. I would love to spar against him. You should. We all know that if you send in your full-on army, then you would win. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck at that statement. But a 1v1 would be fun to watch. Even though his original part of his quirk permeability is a weak-tier quirk, he made it strong. I don't doubt it, with him having been trained in UA, most weak-tier quirk can become high-tier. Izuku spoke wisely. It caused her to giggle. This kind of conversation continued for some time. After some comfortable silence, she spoke in a quieter voice. I am glad to have met you. The experience in the gate was amazing but frightening. It also showed me that I need to have another attack that the different outputs of my quirk. Not mentioning, you didn't tell me that I am weak or that I cannot do things from my airheadness. With a gentle smile, Izuku replied, life is a learning experience. If you ever need any help with training, just come to 1A top floor, that is where I live. With an unnoticeable blush, she spoke, thank you, I will. This continued for another hour where they paid and left. Roomi was too drunk to even walk and Izuku placed her on his back. Ryuko was tipsy, but her tolerance to alcohol is legious better than Rumi's. Izuku even asked if to heal them, but they shook their heads. Ryuko asked, you two want to stay at the agency? With some slur in her voice. Izuku being the conscious one out of the two. Thanks, it would be way better. Though we do have the moving house. This caused the three to laugh whilst Roomi snuggled closer to Izuku. For some reason, Nijire had a pang in her heart seeing it. Later, when they got to the dragon's agency, Nijire showed Izuku the room, and with that, they said goodnight and fell asleep. Sunday, for day time skipped the day after the dinner, they all started working as usual. Izuku healed the migraines both the older women had. Roomi kissed him with Ryuko nearly kissing him, remembering that he is in a relationship with Roomi. The next days, Izuku was mainly patrolling with Roomi, Nijire, or occasionally with Ryuko. He occasionally flew on her, whilst other times he asked Raphael if he could ride on his back. He didn't want to ask Alkanost, as it would be weird seeing someone riding on a shadowy figure of a bird with a woman's head. The news of the four teaming up had even hit the headlines. Ryukyu was known to only have one proper sidekick, being Nijire-chan. Nearly the same with Maruko and Monarch. One of the headlines was that they stopped a gang war, two drug rings that had beef with each other selling trigger. It was short-lived when Izuku's shadow's deck ended on the two sides, knocking them out or scaring the living daylights out of them. Now the last day arrived. Izuku and Roomi came back to her house where they spared and talked. Night came and Izuku was at the door with Roomi seeing him off in her oversized hoodie. I guess I will be seeing you. You will definitely. She hugged him, which he reciprocated. I will be coming to UA in some time, so just beware of hidden attacks. Hi. I gotta go, but I love you, Bun Bun, he said, leaning down. Leaning up, she spoke before they locked their lips. I love you too, Zuku. A passionate kiss occurred between the two new lovers. After their tongue battle, Izuku spoke up. I will be going to Heaven's Tower. If you want, you can come with me again. I cannot wait to kick more angels' ass. Chuckling, he leaned in for a peck on the lips and waved goodbye. Damn, I love that man. That was her thought as she watched him leave. Yue, hey sensei, how was your week? He asked, seeing Aizawa first. He just grunted a response. Also catching a bottle. What this? He asked in a curious tone of voice. It should help you with your insomnia, but it also helps grants a minor healing factor, making your body more relaxed. The next moment, Aizawa took the full bottle of it, and in the seconds to come you could see his eyes having less blood vessels and the posture straightened up. With a small smile that was rare from the man, thanks, problem child. No problem. Just call me when you need more. With that, he handed 4 more bottles to him. Oh, and only drink 1 a day. With that, he said goodbye to his homeroom teacher. Oh, and well done with Stain. Thanks, sensei. With that, he walked off whilst Aizawa was ready to go on his patrol. That in the dorms was a different story altogether. Chaos, the kitchen was on fire. Some of the floor was flooded and the furniture seemed to be hit with a tornado. When Izuku came and saw that, he released the full brunt of his aura, stopping all of the students in the dorm. I just came back and the first thing I see is all of the floor being destroyed. Everyone was sweating. Now they saw what Heian said, that when Izuku released his aura, then it seems like you are walking in a presence of the top hero in a country. Izuku looked around and spotted Momo. Momo? Please tell me what happened. She gulped, seeing that she was called upon. Also, her being vice president kinda made her to expect it. How should I say it? With the unimpressed look that Izuku was giving her, she finally relented. A pervert was here. Blinking. Denki. Ignoring the shout of, what man? Shaking her head. No, a grape-headed boy named Minoru Mineta. I think he is from 1C. And where is he? Izuku spoke in a calm manner. This sent shivers down all of Class 1A's backs. This was a reason everyone was downstairs, so they could clean up before their class president came. Mina answered him this time. That perv run of. She spat it out. Nodding, okay. I will deal with him in a second. But why is the kitchen still on fire? Izuku asked with an undertone. Katsumi blew him into the kitchen. Kyoka answered, receiving a pointed look from that said teen. He then looked at Katsumi. And you didn't kill him? Are you getting soft? This caused some of the class to chuckle. But Katsumi had some tick marks on her face. I wish. That bastard nearly got into my room, she spat out, with a sweet smile that caused all of them to sweat. Okay. Come forth, Vadianoi. Please put out the fire. Then turning to the door, he spoke to his shadows. Come forth, Leshis, Rusalkas, Baruka, and a power angel. With those came out over 43 shadows. Hunt down Minoru Mineta 1C. Scare the living shit out of him for him to shit himself a couple of times. Don't kill him, but you do whatever you think is necessary. You have a healer on hand. Go. With a bow and all seemingly to have a sadistic smile on their faces, they ran. That night, there was one noise that was heard all over UA. This was music to the ears of 1A females. Izuku, though, did meet with Shoko and Heian properly. After the downstairs was cleaned up, Izuku got sushi of all different kinds to share with everyone. All of them talked about the work studies. Tenya told everyone about his punishment and with the male twin of Shoko. To say Shoko was happy about her brother was an understatement. Everyone congratulated Izuku about his relationship with Roomi, much to the ire of Katsumi and the other two girls who lived on the top floor. In an alleyway, I wonder what you would look like with blood, Izukuin. A kind of deranged voice was heard from a cute 16-year-old with two messy buns. After her Staney was captured by Izuku and Roomi, a new obsession came to her. She finished stabbing a man and drank his blood. Bae, his blood is shit. The next day, all of the 20 students were in their seats waiting for their teacher to arrive. It was shocking not seeing the sleepy man no tired that much. The bags under his eyes had been reduced and he didn't seem as grumpy as usual. Good, you learn fast. He was talking about them being quiet. We will be going over everyone's reports on their work studies for the first period, then you will have English with Mike. He droned on. The only such person who wasn't attending the lesson is Tenya from his suspension for the week. There was some chit-chat, but Aizawa handed everyone their own reports. I am going from the top downwards. He then began with Toru, the light hero. Illusionist was proud of your work ethic and commitment. He is congratulating you for your quick thinking and reflexes. Your hand-to-hand combat was really good for someone without a strength enhancer and that your quirk fits well with his. He suggested that you improve on your speed and that you continue with the idea you came up with. Well done. Yay, thanks, Sensei. She cheered with her invisible body. Next, Katsumi. You could hear her saying, fuck. You need to work on your behavior and your hair? He asked, but he heard Izuku snicker. He'll ask him later on about that. You have promise, especially with your agility, whilst using your quirk, but you lack finesse. She just snorted at that. Shaking his head, he continued, Izuku, we practically saw what you did on TV all week round. He received nods from everyone. Maruko only recommends that you work on unarmed combat. You have the strength, but some villains need a lighter punch than what All Might can produce. Izuku just sweat dropped at that. Hi, Sensei. With that, he continued with the everyone. Heian was told to improve her reflexes. Shoko was told to try releasing as much ice with control for as long as she can. Mizo was asked to see if he can actually enlarge his sense organs, etc. Hero class All Might came in like a normal person again through the door. Good afternoon, students. Welcome back from your work studies. Wow, it's his Bronze Age costume. So retro. I think he is loosing his sticks. Definitely. Going up to the podium. Firstly, I am not losing my sticks. Secondly, today we will see what you are made of. But with 1B. We will be joined by Aizawa and Ken for this exercise. What kind of exercise are we doing, sir? One of the students asked. Putting his hand up with a card. Rescue race. Meet me in training ground beta. With that, he left like a hero should. With that being said, they went to the changing rooms. Whilst being in a changing room, Ejiro asked, Izubro, what does the crescent moon represent? This got everyone's attention as they looked at the right sleeve of Izuku, seeing the yellow crescent moon. With a small smile, he told the group, this is the same moon that Maruko has. It's more of me showing that I am working under her. Though the moon mostly represents her Luna attacks. Ah, that is so manly. Ejiro spoke with some tears. Izuku just sweat dropped. Man, you are lucky you got Maruko. Denki said. Yeah, I am. It all started by her asking me out for some dinner after I kicked her ass. Some of them just blinked. Izuku kicked her ass? The blonde continued on a slightly different topic. There are only a few good ones in our class. Izuku tilted his head. A few? I thought all of them were good ones? He said that in a confused manner. You seem not to be with me. I will teach you everything about Breas. There was some explosions, ice and some other things being heard from the next door. Then a shout from Katsumi. Denki Kaminari, if you teach Izuku about those topics, then I won't miss purposefully like I did with the grape-haired. Hi, was the only reply from Denki, who had a frightened look on his face. What was Denki about to teach me? Izuku asked no one in particular. Jiro shouted from the next door, don't listen to the yellow buffoon Izuku. Oh, okay. With that, the two groups started to leave towards Ground Beta. Ground Beta 1A was chatting with each other whilst waiting for the instructor and 1B. Then they heard a voice that they didn't think they will hear so soon. Look at those losers. Haha, you were only invited here to let 1B show how much more powerful they are in comparison to 1A. The students of that mentioned class just glanced at Monoma and then continued to talk to each other. Leaving a sobbing Nito, All Might entered with the two class teachers behind him. Alright students, you all have finished your work studies, and now we will test how much you have improved. We will be doing a rescue race. Yosetsu Aways asked the following question. Wouldn't it be better to do it in the USJ? Shaking his head. Not today. Heroes will have moments when they need to find a trapped person or even a missing person in a city. The two classes nodded. As there are 38 of you, we will be splitting it up in groups of 5, whilst the last two groups will be groups of 4. Aizawa continued, it will be a random selection. This may include students that are orientated with speed, so don't be down if you won't be first. Sekijiro Ken, or also known as the Blood Hero, Vlad King, spoke up. Let's show Class 1A what we are made of. 1B. He cheered his class on whilst ignoring the other students' look of disbelief. All Might coughed in his hand. The first group will be Katsumi Bakugo, Kozai Tsuburuma, Jiroda Shishida, Kyokujiro, and Rikido Sato. The small bots will show you where you will start. When you hear my voice, then you can start. They all started to leave when conversations started to start. Who do you think will win, Izuku? Shoko asked. I don't know much about 1B, but it could be Kaken or Jiroda. He replied soundly. Being curious, Heian asked, how come? This made even Nito listen in. From what I have seen, 1B doesn't have a lot of power types like 1A does, but they have more specialized types. Jiroda has a mammal quirk which usually give them enhanced speed. Kaken can fly with her explosions, whilst Rikido can run, but he needs to find All Might, which will be harder for him. From what I remember, Kozai has an air quirk, not similar to Inasa, which can give some advantage in heights. Lastly, Kyoka. She has enhanced hearing, allowing her to pinpoint All Might's location. With this, I deduced it will be either Jiroda or Kaken. Inasa walked up to Izuku and placed his large hand over Izuku's shoulder. I agree with Izuku. Your deduction skills never cease to amaze me. Thanks, Inasa. The race between the 5 was simple enough, as Izuku predicted. Jiroda and Kaken had the lead for most of the race, with only Katsumi winning by 4 seconds. The third place was surprisingly Kyoka, with Rikido coming in 4th, only 8 seconds after her. Lastly, Kozai came in last, but only 6 seconds after Rikido. The matches continued when the second to last match names appeared. Izuku Midoriya, Heian Cha, Shoko Todoroki, and Nito Monoma. You could hear Izuku laughing at the twist of fate. Who would think that the enemy of 1A will be facing some of the most powerful students in that class? Nito secretly touched for people. He tried to touch Izuku Oswell, but when he tried to touch him, a lot of eyes appeared looking murderous at him. This made him gulp and touch someone else. People always assumed that he could only copy 3 quirks with the 3 stopwatches he has on his costume. This wasn't true though. He could copy 4 and hoped he could copy 5 in the future. The 4 got into their places, and when All Might shouted, "Help!" they started. Izuku used his skill, Sprint, to ran to where he sensed All Might. Heian used one of her swords to levitate and rush to the minuscule image of All Might. Shoko used ice to push herself towards the sound. Nito though used Inasa's wind quirk, Katsumi's explosions, Ochako's gravity, which was the hidden one, and lastly Jiroda's beast quirk. This gave him a quirk start, and with the non-existent weight and the speed given by the wind and explosions, he rushed towards the number 1 hero. Izuku could sense that someone is rushing quickly behind him, but he didn't care. Why? He was with All Might for at least 50 seconds talking. It was surprisingly a tie between the last 3 contestants, all panting and sweating, not wanting to be left behind by any other. Ha ha ha. Well done, you four. Go back and the next group will be announced. That was impressive, Nito. Izuku commented, much to the confusion of the said person. Wasn't one a full of assholes? With the group, that was fast. Kyoka commented. Agreed. It seems that his speed increased again whilst working under Maruko. Momo spoke that it was surprisingly Itsuka who asked the next question. What is with his aura? Setsuna pipped in. It was like being in the All Might's presence. It was scary but cool. A broken Japanese was spoken by the American student Pony. Kyoka just sighed. His improvement rate is the greatest out of all of us. At the beginning of the year, he felt like being near a top 10, but now he has to suppress his aura, which leads to him seeming to be in a presence similar to All Might's. That explains a lot, spoke the class president of 1B, but also heard a lot of gulping from nearby people. Momo's moment. I do need to speak to him about some matters. Father and mother asked me for it. She didn't want to admit it, but her family has a secret toxic part to them. Whilst they may be genuinely loving parents, if they have a method of rising further in the society, like with status or power, they would do a lot of things. The birth of Momo was more out of need than love. Momo's mother has a minor creation quirk that only allows her to produce metals, though her father has a fat storage quirk that allows him to store fat cells in a more compact manner, allowing it to be the first energy source than proteins. Though there was a problem that neither of her parents foreseen, his relationship with Maruko. For some reason, they did insist to ask if the pro hero could share him too. She remembered them starting to ask her questions after the recommendation exam, but Izuku didn't show the shadow ability then. Though they were still interested, seeing as the rabbit hero, Maruko actually recommended someone. They were even more shocked about Izuku beating her during the first class exercise, the quirk test. Her parents asked more questions then, but she was lucky that she lived in a dorm. When they heard about Izuku renovating the top male floor and being apprenticed under Nizu, they were more than curious. It also seemed that Izuku has a lot of money under him too. Heck, the duo even done a background check, which too surprised Momo with the results. Izuku was quirkless until he awoke his quirk after being punched by the #1 hero. It wasn't unheard of but rare. When they found out that his father Hisashi Midoriya was in the USA and will be working in Japan again, a plan started to form in their heads. When the USJ occurred, they were more than shocked about the shadow ability, which continued during the sports festival. All three thought that Izuku had multiple quirks, but he only had one, as was said during the Hosu incident where Stain and the Nomu appeared. Her parents knew that if they had that boy with their daughter, their grandkids would be powerful. With the money that the Midoriyas seemed to be making too would be a decent addition. But having a soon-to-be hero under the banner of the Irozus would boost their reputation up. They were of course happy for her when she talked about Izuku voting for her being the class rep, how he cared for all of 1A, but when their daughter told them about the competition being of 4 other ladies with some secret ones which neither knew of, was a little troubling. Nevertheless, they advised her to get closer to the boy and possibly get his hand in marriage someday. She didn't know what will happen in the future, as it could cause a massive shitstorm. Momo then thought, easier said than done, mother, father. End of Momo's problems with that. The 2 classes finished after the next race. All of them were a little tired, so they were dismissed. Surprisingly, Momo and Izuku made some light conversation on the way back, with their analytical minds working to show who is mentally superior, which made them both say it was a blast at the end. It was 4 weeks later when Aizawa gave an interesting notice to them all. In a week's time, you will have your summer exams. Obviously, there will be your class exams, but there will be your practical exams. This is going to be fun. The #1 student, the class representative himself, the one called the Shadow Hero Monarch, spoke. Agreed, this time I will beat you. Momo, the student in the second place, said. During the 4 weeks, the two became closer friends with Kyoka. Not as close as Izuku was with Katsumi, Shoko, and Heian. We will try our hardest, sir. The third place student said. Tenya Ida. A 3-way electric bolt was sent between 3 females. Those 3 females always took 4th, 5th, and 6th places in the class, though they always swapped places. This time Shoko was in 4th, Katsumi was in 5th, whilst Heian was in 6th. Kaminari broke down in tears. I cannot do it. That man was in 20th place. Izuku looked over him and spoke. I can help you all learn. We can meet in our dorms after. Thank you, Izuku. The blonde hugged him, which Izuku patted the back of him. Can I join in, Izubro? The bro of bros asked. Sure. He then looked around. If anyone wants to join, feel free. He then looked at Momo, knowing what her pleading eyes mean. Momo will too help. Lunch Izuku, Mei, Tenya, Shoko, Heian, Katsumi, Koji, Momo, Kyoka, Fumikage and Rikido all sat on the table just chatting to each other thinking about their practical exams. During the previous 4 weeks, nothing interesting happened. Izuku concentrated leveling his skills, especially shadow manipulation, as there were no gates to be opened, just Bar Heaven's Tower and the mysterious key. He was planning to go into them after the exams. Itsuka came close to them. "You were talking about the practical exam, right?" Tenya nodded whilst Momo asked her a question. "Do you know what it could be?" Though after a second of thinking, Izuku thinks that we are going to be against teachers from what happened at the USJ and the recent movements of the League of Villains. Okay, but from one of my friends from year 3, they told me that the first-year summer exams are against robots. Itsuka told them, but when Nito wanted to complain, she just hit his head, not knocking him out this time. For some reason, some of the students smiled at that with relief coming from them. "I am sure we are against teachers." Nizu hinted at that a while back, though I could always ask Nijire. That may be true. During the 4 weeks, Izuku learnt about strategy against villain organizations, improving security and quirk analysis. It wasn't as hard like being taught by Recovery Girl. She banned him from using his quirk against minor cases due to her wanting him to practice normal first aid. Though he did have it be leveled up twice during the 4 weeks was alright in his books. Izuku was taught how to operate the machines like the X-ray machine as an example. It was interesting when Izuku asked if he could start healing the Big M, but told Toshinori that he may have a way of bringing him back to his former bodily strength, but it will take some time to get it ready. The healing process took 30 minutes of Izuku's time. During this time, he had to drink a mana-replenishing potion. At the end of it, Izuku healed up the lung where it had multiple puncture marks, majority of the liver, recreated his stomach and some scar healing with some minor healing done to the other organs too. He told All Might to take it slowly from eating more fluid foods to then having heavier foods. Toshinori now his time increased back to 4 hours per day than the 1 hour and 30 minutes. He had tears of joy and promised him that he will make it up to him. Dorms Izuku sat in the main living room of the dorms with all of the students around him. Due to Izuku's intelligence being at a high level, he developed a photographic memory and the deduction skills too increased amazingly. This allowed him to become the top student of his class, and now he was teaching or explaining some topics to his classmates. It was quite funny seeing Denki short-circuit from the information he was presented, but nothing interesting happened. Sometime later, Izuku went towards his dorm saying he needs to prepare for training. It was true, but he was in a mood of thinking for some reason. For the last 4 weeks, one Momo Yaoyorozu became closer to Izuku, but for what reason? Both of them were on speaking terms. He wouldn't have called them friends then, but now definitely friends. Talking about friends, Shoko, Katsumi and Heian started to become more than friends. He knew that Katsumi wanted to be with him, but he had a girlfriend that he loves. He just sighed at that, not wanting to have a larger headache. Sometimes he wished some of his soldiers could speak. Izuku's POV. What can I do? I thought whilst looking at my skills. I did buy a rune stone. Even though my cloak is amazing, I could use more protection, so buying the skill elemental resistance for 55 million gold was worth it, especially when my body can withstand higher temperatures. I realized that I needed this when I remembered that elemental quirks are pretty common, and the gates, having already been in the cold and the heat type of gates, was understandable too. Right? Skills. Passive unknown. Max. Muscularity. LV.1. Advanced Dagger Arts. LV.4. Advanced Spear Arts. LV.4. Elemental Resistance. LV.1. Active Sprint. LV.6. Bloodlust. LV.4. Fireball. LV.5. Vital Strike. LV.3. Stealth. LV.6. Dominator's Touch. LV.4. Spear Throw. LV.5. Healer. LV.8. Shadow Manipulation. LV.3. Job Specific. Shadow Extraction. LV.1. 354/405 Save Shadow. LV.2. 354/391 Skill. Elemental Resistance. LV.1. Passive. The ability to be protected from different elements. As a side effect of the skill is the gaining of resistance to extreme temperatures. The range is -50°C to 500°C. Then, muttering to myself, I only have a week to train. Nizu kind of banned me from using training fields to train my shadows against each other. Though I do realize that they slowly level up. Which was true, I did notice an increase by 1 level for all of them. I had to accept the promotions of my 4 winged angels and the mid-tier Nomu. How I level them up is this: for example, the 4 winged angels were at level 9, and when they gained a new level like LV.10 or otherwise known as LV Max, they need to wait for their liege to approve of their promotion to LV.1 but a higher grade. 500C isn't much. I remember Endeavor's flames being at around 2000C if he tried. Then realization struck me, I could ask some of my angels to throw fire at me. This will allow them hopefully to level up whilst my resistance goes up too. End of Izuku's POV. After that, Izuku got to a training ground, Delta to be more precise. He quickly texted a friend who is 2 years old than him to meet him and possibly train more. Nijire and Izuku became fast friends, and he could possibly say that he is one of his closest friends. He saw that she will be there in 10 minutes, so firstly he asked his 4 winged angels to shoot fire at him. When Nijire saw the text, she became way happier than she was at that moment. Then he poured some water of his exposed upper body, making the image of sweat covering his body. At that moment her brain stopped and she fell backwards with a goofed grin. For some reason she found that hot too. Izuku looked back and shouted in worry, "Nijire, in the headquarters of the HSPC, do we know what the boy's quirk is?" A woman that is loved by some and hated by many asked. "No, Madam President, not even his father knows." A worker under her spoke to her in a respectful tone. "We suspect that only Nizu and possibly Maruko know the true extent of his quirk. We do theorize that he has a taking part of his quirk." A takening part, eh? The last one that was documented died mysteriously. She spoke with an unnoticeable smirk. "Get in contact with Nizu. If he doesn't spill, then Maruko." "Hi, Madam President," the man said whilst he left. "Soon, Izuku Midoriya, we will know if you could be our greatest ally or our greatest enemy." Madam President just looked outside with a smile. "Soon, very soon." With Izuku after Nijire fainted, Izuku placed her under a tree whilst he was sparring with Igris. He only raised the level of that elemental resistance to LV.2, but it took him over 30 minutes of fire abuse. The temperature was interesting. The range is now from -60C to 750C. Izuku knows he is strong. Possibly he can be the strongest in the world soon. But the next challenge is to take the summer exams by its horns and win. Oh, and making Nijire wake up. She must have been worried about me being on fire. Which was true. The stress of seeing one of her closest friends nearly fry, then seeing his body can raise some levels like stress. It took another 10 minutes when Nijire Hato started to wake up. She noticed that she was under a tree with Izuku's jumper over her top body. The Bluenet just smiled at that and continued to watch Izuku spar with Igris for some time. After 5 minutes she started to wake up, and just in time seeing Izuku fly over from a punch Igris made. "Oh hey Nijire, feeling better?" She giggled seeing that Izuku was hanging upside down from a tree branch. "Thanks, I am feeling way better. You good up there?" Sighing, he spoke in a low tone. "Never been better." After that, the two spared with each other, with both giving tips to each other and just talking in general. After an hour, they both got an outdoor dinner from Izuku and continued to spar until 9 p.m. where they had to leave for their dorm. Waving goodbye, seeing her go to her dorm, Izuku left for his, not noticing a pair of twitching eyes. Week later, the paper exam wasn't as hard as Denki thought it would be. They had maths, Japanese language, English, geography, modern literature, heroics, theory, and history. It was split up between 4 days, with 2 exams per day, whilst on their 4th day they had heroics, theory, exam in the morning, whilst heroics, practical, exam later on the day. And who would have thought that Denki did not yet think he failed an exam? Not he. With the rest of the class are getting ready for the exam, their hero suits on with game faces, ex-pet of the blonde, Denki. His face was of a worried but excited person, as he could let go whilst fighting against robots. Right? Yeah, Denki was fucked. They are not fighting robots, but teachers. The teacher he is facing is the one who kinda hated humans, Nizu. He heard Izuku whisper good luck, but he should be wishing him good luck, seeing was he is going to face against. With Izuku, he was sitting near Recovery Girl looking at all of the screens. All of the teams have left a plan. Heck, even Katsumi did that. Though Izuku was left alone as a single-man team, unfairness to its basics. Though he is not complaining at the quest he did receive. Alarm. Quest has been formed. Win against all odds. Win the battle against the supposed villain by knocking him out. If you run away or fail a penalty, will be given reward 1. Stat points plus 10 reward 2. Plus 5% to physical pain nullification reward 3. Akatsuki Gate Key. I am rewatching Naruto and not gonna lie, I wanted to add something from that anime. The reward 3 is pretty interesting, Akatsuki He. Izuku thought to himself. The first match was Ejiro and Rikido against Cementos. Izuku thought it was due to them having a time limit whilst Cementos did not. At the beginning it all went pretty well with the both boys destroying the cement constructs, but later on they begin to tire out. Even with Ejiro's unbreakable form that he can hold for nearly 2 minutes, they were swallowed up by cement, making it their loss. Ejiro and Rikido lost their match. The second match was Tsuyu and Fumikage against Ectoplasm. Both have a rounded-up arsenal, and with the frog girl swallowing the cuffs until Dark Shadow placed it onto the original Ectoplasm's body. They won, but at the cost of them being stuck on a wall from the large clone's attack. Tsuyu and Fumikage won their match. The third match was Tenya and Heian against Power Loader. The ground was littered by traps set up by the said man, so Tenya's quirk was pretty useless. Heian tried using the flouting sword trick, but was nearly shot down from the air by their enemy. Later on it was decided by the two students to risk it all with Tenya using Recipro Burst whilst Heian blocked some of the shrapnel of the bombs. They won, but barely in the time limit provided. Tenya and Heian won their match. The fourth match was probably the most interesting so far. It was a 3v1 matchup, but it wasn't easy anyways. Shoko, Momo, and Katsumi against their homeroom teacher, Aizawa. Due to Izuku giving Aizawa those drinks, the health of the said man increased, allowing him to be more agile, faster, and stronger. At the beginning, Shoko was captured, with Katsumi being captured a minute later. Momo tried running away due to her lack of confidence in herself, but realized that if she couldn't do it, then who could? She then run back, blocking Aizawa with Russian dolls exploding in his face. Momo then got Shoko out first, then Katsumi. She quickly produced a trap with the use of Shoko's ice and Katsumi's explosion quirk. When Aizawa came closer, he used his dagger that was given by Izuku to cut the capture tape, which shocked Momo, making her captured. Shoko tried to use her ice manipulation to create a sword, but all she could have done before Aizawa cancelled her quirk was some ice. Though Katsumi rushed in with her gauntlet ready, Aizawa's eyes widened at that and jumped back, not being caught in the massive explosion, but he used his capture tape to smash Katsumi into a pole whilst used Shoko as a flying disc, making her go into a building. Izuku grimaced at that. The time did run out though, meaning the three girls have failed. They have an over-reliance of their quirks that Aizawa showed and got them defeated. The man was supposed to be a C-rank hero, but in all reality he is an A-rank hero with his experience under his belt. Whilst the three girls could have defeated Aizawa, they did not expect him to have a dagger that could cut Momo's improvised capture gear. Momo, Katsumi, and Shoko lost their match. The official GUID book states that 13 is a female. I am not 100% sure, but I will be stating that 13 is a female hero. The fifth match wasn't interesting much. Ochako and Yuga against 13. The space woman wasn't a combative hero, but seeing her being able to quickly getting the upper hand was something to see. Ochako and Yuga were both hanging by the rails, when Yuga said something that caused her to blush, making her hand go off the rails. This made 13 stop using her quirk, allowing Ochako use Gunhead's martial art style to quickly subdue 13. Ochako and Yuga won their match. The sixth match was something that both Recovery Girl and Izuku had a laugh about, Mina and Denki against Nizu. It was a mess in all honesty. Nizu was using a crawler crane to destroy buildings while laughing manically and drinking tea. The two, who usually have bottom-of-the-class grades and poor control of their quirks, were running for their lives, not noticing that one exit was open for them to leave by. They did lose by the lack of time for their end. Mina and Denki lost their match. Koji and Kyoka against Present Mike for the seventh match was more of a learning experience for Koji than anything. The gentle Ani voice user was scared of bugs, but after seeing Kyoka bleeding from her ears, he forcefully made the bugs to attack Present Mike, allowing the two to escape and win. Koji and Kyoka won their match. The eighth match was Toru and Mizo against Snipe. Izuku felt bad for Snipe at the end, but the fight was interesting. Using smoke bombs to make the vision of Snipe worsen, and using Mizo as a distraction while Toru went behind him and placed the cuffs on the Sniper Man. Though the Snipe accidentally elbowed Toru's breasts, which was why Izuku felt bad. Toru and Mizo won their match. The last match before Izuku's one was Mashiro and Hanta against Midnight. At the beginning, the purple mist came out from the seductive young woman towards the two boys. They snapped out a little too late as Hanta thrown Mashiro back whilst the tape man was caught by the gas. Mashiro used some of the tape to place over his mouth whilst he went towards Midnight to fight her and get Hanta for them to win. But the whip made that Mashiro opened his mouth, which caused some of the tape to come off, allowing the gas inside the system of Mashiro's body, making him go unconscious. They lost, but Izuku wondered if the gas had any effect on himself. Hanta and Mashiro lost their match. Even with the 50% weight bands that all teachers had, 9 out of the 19 students had lost, which was a little worrying in all honesty. Next match is Izuku Midoriya against All Might and Maruko. Izuku stood up with a slight upturn of his lips. Whilst he left, all of the students came back to the watching area with all of the teachers. Izuku's angels had healed them all up and are all in his shadow awaiting match. Baruka could fight a strong opponent again, which he was interested by. The match will have different rules, the villains are not wearing the weights and you cannot escape. Izuku needs to capture both heroes or make them go unconscious or vice versa for the villains. There is also no time limit. The announcer, which was a robotic voice, came out. This caused some shock with the audience. The place where the battle was going to take place was a large city which looked abandoned. Tall skyscrapers with some smaller building in front of Izuku. Whilst entering the gate, he made all of the normal grade, elite grade and night grade spread out into the shadows, and when Izuku sent a signal they would come out. Smirking, "Come forth, Fisher, Dracula, Raphael, Baruka and Igris." The 5 names shadows came out from behind Izuku. Igris stood to the right of Izuku whilst Raphael to the left. Raphael was floating behind Izuku whilst Fisher and Dracula were to the left and right of Raphael respectively. The 6 auras of S-class beings was showing full force, with even the people in the viewing booth felt it. Viewing booth shaking slightly, Mashiro muttered, "What powerful auras. We can even feel it here," but everyone heard it. Midnight licked her lips. "That is pretty hot," but received glares from not only the 3 girls after Izuku Heart, but most of the class, and surprisingly a Bluinette who entered. "Otamaki, Nijire, Muro? What are you doing here?" Aizawa asked. Before any of the 3 could reply, Nizu pipped in. "I invited them here to watch Izuku." Nijire nodded her head. "I watched him fight with all of his power and tell me it is amazing." She wasn't her curious self asking all of the others questions, which shocked the teachers but made the other 2 of the big 3 look shocked. So this is the one she had her eyes on? The both of them thought. "I want to go home, Mirio. They are not looking like potatoes," Tamaki muttered. Mirio shook his head. "Anyways, hey, we are the big 3 of UA." The students had questioning glanced, but Shoko, Katsumi and Heian, realizing Nijire is the girl who is too interested in Izuku. Aizawa explained, "Those 3 are the strongest students in UA. They are high A to S rank material. Wouldn't Izaburo be considered one of the strongest, as he is facing All Might and Maruko?" Nijire answered, "He is stronger than myself and I know that, but I am curious who would win." Then she looked at the big screen where Izuku had his 5 top soldiers behind him. She just smirked, causing the other 2 to worry. Mirio though thought to himself, so this is the one who healed All Might up to his current strength, but also may have a way to get All Might back to his original strength. Interesting. He smiled at the end. Back to Izuku, the 6 walked closer to the 2 so-called villains. All Might laughed. "Is this all young Izuku?" Roomi just face-palmed, which was reciprocated with everyone in the booth. Smirking, "Come forth!" All around them, 349 shadows came out of their hiding places. All Might, realizing he messed up, he could sense 1 C rank, 183 B ranked, 165 A ranked, and 5 S rank shadows, whilst Izuku was high S rank / low international. Roomi looked around and saw the 71 angels in the air whilst Satkiel was leading them. The bears and other monster shadows were surrounding them, including the cottage. The elves were hiding in buildings, having their arrows pointing at them. The vampires were around them, or some of them flying in their bat form. The alchemists were perched across the top of the buildings, whilst the magicians were at strategic points pointing their magical sticks at them. The Leshy, who she was worried about a lot, were in each corner whilst she saw the Nomu hanging of the buildings, flying castily or behind them. "Do you want to give up?" Izuku asked them whilst using the skill Bloodlust towards them. Roomi and All Might both started to sweat, knowing that Izuku is telling the truth. Even if All Might was an international level hero, he didn't think he could take on this many opponents, including Izuku, who is a low international level at best. But he didn't know all of Izuku's tricks. Viewing booth, all of their mouths bar Nijires were wide open. "There is a lot," Mina shouted. Aizawa smirked after he got out of his shock. He shook his head to get the shock properly out of the system. "I see the bison is still doing good. My oh my. I knew Izuku had a lot, but this many." Nizu spoke whilst looking at the screen in awe. One of the students, on the other hand, started to record the battle. so they could show it to their boss. Stuttering out, "Where did he get them?" Tamaki asked out. Nizu looked at the big three. "I cannot tell yet, we will have to see what the future comes." He knew that 1A had a spy in their midst. He did check Izuku already with Tsukachi, but he cannot ask the other students as it may look pretty bad for the school. Though when he looked with the side of his eye towards the students, he saw a glimpse of glass. Widening his eyes minimally, he turned around looking at the screens whilst thinking, if the video will be posted online, then we may know who our spy is. This is a no personal camera zone. He didn't mind it actually. He could show that Izuku is a strong individual that can boost their school reputation a bit higher as it did went down from the Hosu and USJ incident. Fight, they both shook their head. Izuku smiled sweetly and used the skill Dominator's touch to throw the both of them away. Don't kill them but capture them or knock them unconscious. With that command, all but Igris run towards the two heroes who had their eyes widened. All black with some colors being shown occasionally. California Smash / Lunar Ring. Both of them yelled whilst doing their attacks. Some of the shadows were destroyed, but both noticed that the shadows regenerated really quickly. Though Roomi had to miss a smash by Dracula whilst All Might had to dodge the water attack from Fisher. Toshinori didn't get to breathe yet as one of the Leshy elbowed him in the face. The number 1 hero then used Texas Smash, destroying a couple of shadows. Fluffy jumped onto Maruko, who had to dodge the earth-shaking jump, though she tried to kick Baruka away but he blocked with his forearm. Some ice started to form on Rumi's leg, which caused her to jump back into a horde of vampires. Using the Night Killer dagger she had hidden away, she slashed at them whilst dodging some sound attacks. Ice arrows and claws. All Might wasn't faring far better. From OFA he had the ability of being invulnerable to some extent, but this is too much. The shower of ice arrows, fire attacks and other magical attacks at him was kind of overwhelming. He didn't shout the names of the attacks, though when the enemies are jumping on him he had to shout, "Oklahoma Smash." This got all of the shadows of him, but now he had to fight fist to fist with Beast, the Nomu that Izuku defeated during the USJ incident. He remembered the shock abortion, but even with the amount of punches he gave out, he couldn't get Beast of him. He noticed a movement to the left of him, and it was Dracula who punched All Might into a building. Roomi wasn't faring any better. The biggest trouble she had was when the long-range opponents are attacking her. Their teamwork is amazing, but Roomi was a one-woman army. Though when she got wet by a team of Vadianoi, she came to them and slashed them down, barely missing a fireball sent by one of the magicians. Then a Nomu decided to fight with her, the 2 mid-tier Nomus if she remembered right. Quickly, using her legs to smash the face of one of them away whilst cutting the other one's head off, she jumped back. Viewing booth, they are slowly but surely beating All Might away. One of the students muttered, "Maruko is doing well with her blade." Rakido added, "Where did she get it?" Kyoka asked. The nerd gave it to her so she could fight against his shadows without worrying about herself. Katsumi added, "Aizawa-sensei, why is every shadow soldier attacking?" Denki asked. "How they are fighting is to overwhelm the opponent, but strategically. Not every shadow in Izuku's army is a short-range combatant. The long-range ones are usually shooting their attacks when an opening is there." He explained. Mirio thought, "Even with my intangibility, this would be fun. I want to fight him." Whilst Nijire had stars in her eyes, Shoko, Katsumi and Heian all realized how much the shadows improved. From their last training session with Izuku, but without the shadows they are high B to low A rank. Even if they were going full out, Izuku wouldn't even break a sweat. Back with Izuku, MP 22, 834/29. For 40 he was getting bored. He quickly drank a low-level MP potion that gives back 5000 MP back. He sensed that the 2 heroes were struggling, so making it easier for his shadows to subdue them, he used the skill Shadow Manipulation. Smirking, some of his shadows shot out towards All Might, catching his shadow. Closing his fist, shadow tendrils shot out of All Might's shadow, capturing his legs. Toshinori had his eyes widened when his legs were tangled together, but he was too late to realize that Beast punched his upper chest for him to fall back on his back, with Baruka freezing him up. Roomi realized that and used her legs to jump above Luna Fall. With that, she crushed Beast under her leg and got All Might out of the ice with the shake. They both nodded to each other and rushed towards Izuku, though neither expected Raphael to stand in front of them with Zadkiel and the Angel Army. They all began to shoot flames. All Might, don't let the flames touch you. Hearing the advice, they both jumped away, seeing the destruction of the fire, especially from the Ringed Eyes Angel. Izuku saw an opportunity and using skill Sprint, he leapt up and gave a jaw-shattering punch at All Might's jaw, which made him go through 5 skyscrapers, whilst Roomi was punched inside the chicken cottage by Igris. The said skyscraper fell over the fallen body of All Might whilst Roomi couldn't get out of the cottage. She mused to herself, "The inside isn't that bad actually. It is more spacious than I originally thought." "All Might, you okay?" she asked over her communication device. She could hear a groan. "Never been better." Her eyes widened as she saw the building explode upwards. He then shouted towards Izuku, "You got me all pumped up. California smash." Then to the shadows that are coming over him quicker than he expected, double Texas smash. Maruko is captured. The device spoke. Roomi was trapped in the cottage with no way out. She tried kicking, slashing, breaking the door/roof/floor/walls, but nothing. This caused her to say she was captured as she couldn't do anything for the life of her. "Shit, young Izuku captured Maruko. Now all of his forces are going to go against me." Toshinori thought with some panic. He expected some kind of attack, but not Izuku putting his right hand out in front of his face with his middle and index finger crossed, his thumb pointing upwards whilst the pinky and ringed finger are down. Izuku muttered, "Total darkness," which got All Might and himself in a sphere of darkness. Toshinori could only see darkness all around him, with Izuku being the only color to be seen. From the outside it looks like a bubble of darkness floating. Maruko could only stare in awe at that. He saw All Might and lowered his hand but rose both of them simultaneously in a way of showing something. "Do you like me new technique? The one that is inside this cannot move at all. I have saturated my shadow manipulation skill this with my mana so no one could escape this. This is one of my ultimate moves. Domain expansion. Total darkness." Izuku seemed very proud of this, with the smirk that can cause shivers down the most hardened men. Though there was one thing that was weird for Izuku. Shadow extraction can be used on this target. 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 What? There are 7 beings in All Might. Then Izuku looked at All Might, seeing him unconscious but standing. Behind him were 7 spectral figures. "Are you the successor?" a man with a bold head asked. "Wait, no sir. I am Izuku Midoriya," Izuku answered. Internally he was freaking out. Was All Might like him or what? "But you are the perfect host," the only woman of the group said. She had her eyebrow quirked. Izuku blinked dumbly. "I am sorry ma'am, but what do you mean?" One with gray hair walked up to Izuku. "The worthiness that you show is more than enough for us to know. We seen you since number 8 punched you." This caused a massive amount of sweat drops to occur all around. The woman came up to Izuku and muttered, "Soon you will be getting our powers and not the false successor. Izuku Midoriya, you will have many challenges in front of you, but we will be with you again soon." With that, the beautiful woman that kinda looked like his late mother kissed him on the lips gently. Izuku was frozen, not knowing what to do. The kiss deepened and instincts kicked in, with Izuku gently kissing her back, but it was over a second later. He didn't know that in reality that woman was giving a gift to him and was slightly blushing. "Damn, what a good kisser." Izuku placed his hand on his lips and asked in a dazed voice, "Who are you?" He needed to know if she was still alive and if he could find her. "Nana Shimura. Please find my body, I will explain more then." With that, all of the spectral figures left the domain, with Izuku releasing the technique. After the domain was released, then All Might came down in an unconscious heap on the floor. "Yes bitches, bros and non-binary hoes, she is still alive. Though finding her will be a nightmare." "What? She is still alive, but where? I will need to search for her after I come back to the dorms." Izuku thought. All Might went unconscious. "Winner Izuku Midoriya," the robotic voice came out. Izuku, on the other hand, went on a knee from the exhaustion caused by the spectral figures. Though he wouldn't forget the kiss given to him by one of the most beautiful ladies he have ever seen, that he dispelled all of the shadows bar Raphael, so he could heal up All Might and Maruko. Roomi then walked up to Izuku and hugged him. "Well done, Zuku. I didn't know that the chicken cottage could have held me down." Hugging her back and with them gently kissing each other, whilst the view of a defeated and unconscious All Might behind them was something to see. "I didn't know either, but it is good to know for the future for emergency captures." What was that at the end? A super move, domain expansion, total darkness. I will tell you about the move later. Though coming closer to her ear, he whispered, I need to talk to you of what happened inside. She just nodded, and they all went back to the dorms from what a robbot told them. Shadows from the Shadow Army leveled up. You completed the quest. Win against all odds. Win the battle against the supposed villains by knocking them out. If you run away or fail a penalty, will be given reward 1. Stat points plus 10 reward 2. Plus 5% to physical pain nullification reward 3. Akatsuki Gate Key. Will you accept? Accept/reject. Accept. Add 5 points to sense, 3 to vitality, and the 2 to intelligence. Accept reward 2 and 3. In his hand was a black key with a red cloud where the handle's supposed to be. Roomi looked over his shoulder and spoke. A new key. Yeah, I got it after defeating you and All Might. It is an S-rank key, but it is under a collection edition. Item, she thought realistically. Izuku smiled. I have a late birthday present for you. Just meet me in my room after we are finished with whatever we are supposed to do first, okay? Hi. With that, she kissed Izuku on the lips and separate for the time being. UA dorms as Izuku came into the dorm. What was that? Is it a new technique? How did you do it? Why was All Might unconscious at the end? What happened inside? The girl we all know and love bombarded Izuku with questions. Hey, calm down, Nijire. This was my ultimate move. Izuku tried calming her down. Mishiro asked, ultimate move? Izuku nodded. It is something that only we can do, like Tenya has his Recipro Burst. I have Domain Expansion. Total Darkness. The Recipro man smiled at Izuku for the recognition. Though he can continue, with a smirk pointing towards the 3 non-1 students. But I am sure the big 3 who are in the 3rd year and the closest to become the future top 10 heroes of Japan explain. Tamaki just sent a glare that wouldn't even scare a puppy. Nijire and Mirio just smiled. With the later explaining, you should start developing ultimate moves after summer, but it is always to start early. Some of my ultimate moves are called Phantom Menace and Blinder Crush Eyeball Destroyer. This caused everyone to sweat drop. The chatter continued, but in a different place in UA there was a talk between teachers. All Might dear, is everything okay? Recovery girl asked. She was looking at a shaken-up Tashinori. The final technique. What happened? Nizu asked, interested. I was trapped. I couldn't move anything, even my eyes. I saw darkness everywhere. All I could see was Izuku, but I swore I saw shadows in the place. The number 1 hero explained. At least you were not stuck in a chicken house. Roomi muttered, but everyone heard it. Nizu chuckled. It was funny. We could see disturbances in the structure, but it regenerated as fast. So only 9 students failed the practical exam. Though it will be lower, Aizawa mentioned. All eyes were on him, giving the look of what? Nizu explained. You defeated 1 to 3 of them, and they are too reliant on their quirks. Heck, I can't even cancel out Izuku's quirk. So he was lucky. He informed them. Izuku gave me a better dagger that can cut more too. This allowed me to get the upper hand too, which he pulled out. It was more of a thank you, and seeing that my old dagger was used up, it can cut through pretty much anything. Roomi then questioned him. You went to the C-rank gate with him, right? He nodded. Yeah, the Shadow Bison was the boss. All Might looked questioning. So that was the weakest signature I felt. There were 5 solid S ranks, with Izuku being a high S to low international. Only Dracula and Fisher were S ranked. Igris, Baruka, and Raphael all were ranked, though they did level up. You are lucky that we didn't face Baba Yaga. She would have been the grade above Izuku's elite knights. Roomi explained. How does the ranking grade thing work? All Might asked, as he was pretty curious about this. Sighing. The Bison is normal grade. They are around C rank villain in strength. The 4 winged angels are the weakest, whilst the Rusalka, the women-headed birds, are the strongest elite grade, which are B rank villains in theory. There are levels in those grades. The lower the level, the low ranked they are. So for example, LV.1 elite is low B rank, whilst LV.20 elite is high B rank. They all nodded. It was news to Aizawa too. Then there are Knight grade, a rank villains. The most powerful ones are the Leshis, the ugly wooden shadows. They all nodded, so she continued. Then they are the elite Knight grade. They are low to mid-S rank level in strength, and so far Izuku has 5, as you all seen at the beginning of the battle. Taking a deep breath. Though, with their regeneration factor, they can be near impossible to beat, so up them a grade or so. This caused All Might's eyes to widen. They level up constantly even if Izuku doesn't use them. The excess mana production level them up, but gradually. After a minute of silence, the five in the room then continued their conversation with Nizu starting. I may or may not know who the spy is. This made them all have eyes widened. Knowing what they want to ask, Nizu continued. At the beginning of the finals, we told our students not to record anything or even bring their phones to the observation booth. They all nodded, knowing that if any information leaked can cause the said student to have a harder time in the future. With that being said, one of our students brought out their phone to start recording. If I know what will happen, then we will be seeing the video of Izuku giving you two a beatdown shortly. The focused eye went all over them. I believe the spy may be, and that's a wrap for today's episode of What If Deku Had Solo Leveling System. Part 4. Deku's power just keeps skyrocketing, and I know you don't want to miss what happens next. So if you're hyped for more, hit that like button. Let's crush 100 likes and keep this series going. Shout out once again to Michael Zilanka for this incredible idea. Support them, they deserve it. And to all my legendary warriors, thank you for your constant support. You guys make this journey unreal. Drop your theories and thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay strong, stay legendary. Chronos out.